So, Tamar, when you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a writer since I was like 7. I actually recently found a whole bunch of stories that I wrote at that point, and I mean they're pretty embarrassing, but it's clear that that's what I wanted to be. The only other thing I ever really wanted to be was a farmer, which is interesting.
At what point in your life did you want to be a farmer?
I wanted to be a farmer. I mean, I still kind of want to be a farmer, except that I don't really like the practicalities of being a farmer are not attractive to me, but like the ideology of being a farmer I just think is really nice, and I like farms and agriculture and stuff like that. I just don't actually like living far away from other people, which you kind of have to do.
What is the ideology of farming?
Well, I don't know quite enough about it to not sound like an idiot, but I think what I like about it is the whole like raising things from seeds, harvesting. I actually think it has a lot to like. I think that farmers probably have more insight into Judaism than people who live in big cities like me, because Judaism is such an agricultural religion. But I just kind of like I think organic is an overused word these days, but I like the organicness of what I think of farming. Of course, I know that big farms and stuff are not really like that, but that's why I like the ideology and not the actual practice.
Okay, cool. Could you tell me like the story of you and Judaism?
Yes, I grew up in a family that was not a member of an official synagogue. We were members. My parents started a minyan when they were just married, and it is unaffiliated and doesn't have a rabbi and is lay led. And so that was where I went to shul, and I mean continue to go to shul whenever I'm in Chicago. And it was a really fantastic, tight-knit community, and really open and welcoming, and all kinds of different people from all kinds of different backgrounds ended up there. My parents, we have Shabbat and Kashrut in our house, and my sisters and I went to Jewish day school, and then went to Modern Orthodox high school, and I was pretty unhappy. At the Modern Orthodox high school, I felt I was having a lot of issues because it was Modern Orthodox getting less modern and more Orthodox, and a lot of what I was hearing in classes was, if you don't do this, then you're not a good Jew, or if you do this, then you're not a good Jew. And sometimes that was even kind of framed in a not a good person kind of way. And my family didn't do a lot of the things that they thought that we should do, and did things that they didn't think that we should do, and it was just kind of a complicated and upsetting experience. And what I should have done is just talk to my parents about why they made the choices that they made and why they disagreed with the things that my teachers said, because I think they had really good reasons. They just didn't see the reason to kind of sit me down and explain to me carefully why they didn't do the things they didn't do and did do the things that they did do. But it was just confusing, and ultimately not a good thing. I came away from it pretty unhappy, and went to University of Iowa, where I was one of the only, well, I would say myself and the Chabad couple in town were the only Shomer Shabbat people. And that was pretty strange, but also great, because I didn't have people looking over my shoulder and telling me I wasn't being frum enough. And as a result, I became actually, I think, much more religious than I would have become if I'd gone to a school with a huge Jewish community. And I studied abroad. In particular, I had an excellent experience in Oxford, in England, which has like a very small but fantastic Jewish community. And when I graduated, spent half a year teaching and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and was offered a position in a graduate program at Vanderbilt in Nashville. And was thinking, well, I just got done doing college in Iowa with no Jews. Do I really want to go to a place that also doesn't have Jews again? But it turned out that the Orthodox rabbi in town in Nashville is married to a friend of mine. And when I saw that she lived there and could be doing okay, I decided to give it a shot. And I love Nashville and had a pretty positive experience with the Jewish community there. And I spent the summer between my 2 years of graduate school learning at an egalitarian yeshiva in New York City, which was really, I think, kind of a renaissance for me in terms of, you know, how fun it can be to learn and what it can mean to be in a community of people who are into the same things that you are, because I'd been living in communities unlike that for so long. And after I graduated from grad school, I had a couple of other things going on, but pretty quickly made my way to New York City, and now I'm an editor for myjewishlearning.com. So that's I kind of told myself I wasn't going to go and just do Jewish things, but the truth is, it's what I love, so I'm happy to do it.
Thanks. Is it interesting that you made no reference to God in describing your religious journey?
I think that it's somewhat interesting, although not really, because my relationship with Judaism has changed a lot, but my relationship with God has not really changed at all. And so that's really not the focus of my relationship with Judaism. I appear to be, from my experience, I'm kind of a rare animal in that I believe in God wholeheartedly, but I don't have a super clear vision of what that means. It tends to change, but I never think I don't believe in God. That's just never been part of my vocabulary, and I think that if I didn't believe in God, I would just be done with Judaism entirely, because I would have a really hard time davening every day if I didn't believe in God. I don't really see that as important. But I think that davening, and particularly going to shul, is a incredibly important thing, not just for theological reasons, but also for communal and social reasons. It's really where I tend to make friends and meet people who end up becoming major characters in my life. So to me, on a kind of day-to-day basis, the kind of Jewish community stuff is important, but I myself can't. I'm not comfortable being a part of that if I don't kind of have one of the basic feelings about Judaism, which is belief in God.
Got it. Are there any similarities between your relationship with God and your relationship with your father?
No, I don't think so. I like my dad, but to say that our relationship is basic and unquestioning would be not true.
Got it. You mentioned some things you didn't like about your Orthodox day school. Could you elaborate on other things that you either loved or hated about your Orthodox education through 12th grade?
I learned so much. It didn't feel so much when I was in it, but coming out of it, seeing the difference in my education and my friends who went to Hebrew school or after school programs or didn't go to day school, it's just enormous, the amount of knowledge that I have. And the comfort that I have with Jewish texts and all of those things is incredibly important to me, and even though I really was incredibly unhappy, I am very glad that I did get that education at the end of the day. What I didn't like about, I didn't like the kind of internal patriarchy of that system. I didn't like that, at my school there was cooking classes for girls and stuff like that, and I just was, I love cooking, but I just thought it was really patronizing. And I thought that a lot of what was being espoused in my school was just completely